Cool, donc bonjour à tous. Mon nom est Gislain Armand. Je suis un entrepreneur depuis plusieurs décennies maintenant. Je suis avec Emile.
Bonjour, entrepreneur aussi depuis une couple de temps. Donc là, moi et Gislain, on s'est mis ensemble ce podcast-là où est-ce qu'on va communiquer notre expérience en tant qu'entrepreneur. On a chacun deux expériences différentes. Although on a déjà travaillé ensemble souvent. Mais on a chacun nos propres expériences et puis on va être capable de partager ces expériences-là. Moi, de mon côté, en fait, les gens qui peuvent le plus tirer de mon expérience, c'est les gens qui ont une startup. I'll say that in English actually because the audience is much larger. But people who are running a startup of 5 to 10 people in the startup and are working in the unknown. And look, I'll share my own experience about how it's going for me, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and you can leverage as much as what I'm saying for your own startup business. And if you find it valuable, then great. If you'll take what you find valuable from our content here.
We're in 2024, right? So the importance of creating content is of extreme value. For ourselves as entrepreneurs, for our personal growth, but also hopefully for you, the audience that is listening to it. So the first subject we want to discuss is our first experience in business together.
Yeah.
Which is Solution GE. So Solution GE, Gislain, Emile. This is where the name comes from.
Yeah, exactly. So it all started off as us being kids in high school, and we're like, we want to do something different than getting a job or working at the dep or whatever. We're like, let's...
Well, it wasn't part of the culture of our families, right?
Right. Exactly. We were never wired that way. We were always wired in the way where we want to do something that's divergent from what everybody else is doing.
Mm-hmm. And furthermore, both of our parents came from an entrepreneurship background. So both of them had businesses, were running those businesses, and it was part of our education to grow into those businesses as well. So we had connections, and we decided to leverage them even in high school.
Yeah, exactly. Individually, Gislain's parents came from, a business that wholesaled cartridges and printers and stuff like this. My family came from a background at retail electronic stuff. So we're like, okay, we got connections for, cheap products that we could, if we find a distribution strategy for these products, we'll be able to sell them. And as young kids, we were like 15, 16.
And we were young.
Yeah. So we started buying from our parents and reselling online at school. We had friends also that helped us do it. They were also selling with us for us. And that's how we started off in high school, I'd say. And then it continued a little bit later. We made it a little bit more serious at the time. We got a legal name, a company. We made it happen. So what was our initial idea? We were like, let's just do a website, or what was how did it all started?
Well, at first it was we have products. Let's do something with that. So yes, in high school, it wasn't really successful, although we did made a couple of sales. We weren't made a living out of it.
Well, keep in mind that in high school, if you made $80, your weekend was good. Very good. You had a wild weekend. And that was before the inflation and shit. So,
so then what we started doing is something called marché aux puces in Quebec. So essentially, they are only a landfill where people just gather to buy stuff, and others like ourselves selling stuff that we had access to. And, we were just transacting, and the pricing of the good wasn't really fixed. It was actually, how much are you willing to pay for that stuff? And the sale was happening live.
Yeah, it was a lot of negotiation. Yeah. So that was an experience. That was a great experience into us dealing with people coming to us and needed to come up with the best pricing to maximize our profits.
And then we went with the website.
And then we started with the website. And then we're like, we need to take it seriously now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the perks of the website was actually the fact that we were able to crawl the other websites, our competitors. So a strategy that we know Amazon has been using for a very long time, but it was 2008, 2009?
Yeah.
In Canada, Amazon wasn't really there. We were kind of the initial ones online.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, we were able to crawl all the websites, which made it so easy from a managing standpoint, because otherwise we'd had to like manually go through each product and readjust the prices, and prices would shift constantly in the market. So we were very young. We discovered the power of like automation and technology, and we're like, shit, let's just like let the software decide our prices, and our website would just like continuously adapt its prices based on competition. Sometimes we would not make a lot of money, but the goal at the time was just like, let's just get something out there. Let's just get selling. Let's just practice. Let's just practice.
Exactly, which we did. Back in those days, people weren't really buying online, but it was actually the way to attract people to our business. And then it was through phone calls and like the connection, the human connection. Back then, that's what it was all about.
Ultimately, that experience, I think, was kind of okay financially. Like, I don't think we made a shit ton of money, but I mean, the experience we got out of it was phenomenal. Like, the experience was, we learned how to deal with people. We learned how to, negotiate with suppliers, build software products, the legal stuff about it. And I think we were just like 16, 17 or 18 at the time, like around that age. And I think I would encourage anybody who's just, want to try something, you should just do it. You should just do it, because forget the money, but the experience that you're going to get out of it is going to make you a lot of money at a later stage.
Correct. And even today, that is the first experience we wanted to share with you guys, because for us, still as of today, it is still the most valuable experience that we had in business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So should we shift gear to the other points?
Yeah, correct. So entrepreneurship mindset. So this is a very important subject, especially because hard times are going to be there. Don't expect everything to fly and that it's going to be easy. It's actually the opposite. So we wanted to put the emphasis on the importance of having a strong mindset.
Yeah. I think here are a few things that worked. For me, from my experience, here are a few things that worked. But we'll be able to share some mistakes or some stuff that we did properly. But yeah, essentially, we think mindset is so important. And it's, when you talk about mindset, you talk about a lot of different points. And one of the points that is, interesting, if you're leading a company of 5 to 10 people and you're the CEO, people are looking up for your guidance. I think one of the things that worked for me is to constantly recreate myself, constantly step up to my team, step up to the people I work with, and I want them to notice something different about the way that I work. And that little thing is infectious. It gets people, people try to copy it. People try to do the same thing because they're maybe, inspired a little bit.
Leadership.
At least. Yeah, exactly. And I think it is so important, because once you step into a startup, it's not going to work. I think it's not a secret. Well, I think that's the first thing that people need to realize. It's probably not going to work for a long time. I think, and if you set these expectations right since the beginning, it at least gives you the motivations to pursue it.
Correct. Yeah.
Because I think when I came into the startup game specifically, I had no idea what the hell was software, but I was like, you give me 4 months, I'm going to figure it out. And it was a rude awakening to realize that it's not going to take 4 months. Probably going to take more like 4 or 5 years until you start figuring something out. So I think within that period of 4 or 5 years, you have the opportunity to constantly recreate yourself and constantly add new skills, because your initial skills won't be enough, probably, unless you're Mark Zuckerberg and you're just like one of these kids who's like in the 0.1% of intelligence, of skills, whatever. He has the whole package, and he had the whole package when he was 18.
And he had the environmental part of it as well.
Yeah.
He was well positioned.
For most of us, it's going to be hard work. It's going to be hard work. It's going to be a lot of failures. So in that hard work, it's also very interesting, because you also will have the opportunity to improve as a person within that time frame. So give yourself 4 or 5 years, and that 4 or 5 years, put yourself milestone. Every 3 months, you need to come up with new skills, recreate yourself, come in, with a different mindset improvement. So I think that is super important if you're leading a team. In terms of another thing that I think worked super well for me, and by the way, should we just continue with that format? Are you timing
sure.
it? Yeah. So the other thing that works super well for me is it's a shift in mindset. It's accepting failure. It's the acceptance that you've built a team, you've got the funding for the team, and shit might not work. And that's possible, because The
Well,
moment
chances are it won't.
chances are it won't. Chances are it won't. And I think the hardest thing was for me to accept that. Initially, I was like, the more you try to fight it, the more it puts you in a fear mind state. And if you're working from a fear mindset, you will probably then fail. So from the get-go, play it out. Be like, it's 30% chance that it's not going to work. 30% chance it might work so. Maybe 5% chance it might work phenomenally. And no, the rest, up to God. So I think that really helped. Just accept that is a fact and go to work every day. Just do your best. I think this is another mind shift that helped me in the journey.
Correct. Very important.
The other thing, if you're leading a team of 5 to 10 people, what really worked well for me personally is always try to think a few steps ahead. 4, 5, 6 steps ahead of everybody on the team. What this will do is, well, I think every leader, every startup person who's running a team of 5 to 10 need to have it needs to be one person in the team that has a vision.
Your leader.
It's a conversation we often had. And when I started off as a startup founder, I was like, no, you know what? Everybody has their own piece, and everybody could. And ultimately, I think everybody could have their own opinion, but we need to follow one master strategy. I think that is super important. And if you're leading a team, you have that responsibility, you also have inherently the responsibility of thinking 4 to 5, 6 steps ahead on everybody else. Why is that important? Well, first of all, it's going to add confidence when you're faced with smart people on your team. They're going to highlight problems in their strategy. And if you didn't do your thinking, if you didn't think all these steps ahead, you won't have an answer for these things. And ultimately, your team won't have confidence in following your strategy. I think that's super important. The other thing that's why it makes it so important is that if you haven't done this thinking ahead of time, then you'll be doing this thinking in a one-on-one meeting when somebody will, bring up to the surface the objection of why this plan might not work. And if you haven't done your thinking ahead of time, then you'll be in for a very long meeting because you won't have a solid explanation on how you're going to overcome this obstacle. So you'll just, ask your team to just trust you, and you'll just have to do so much selling to follow on your journey, your plan. And I think that you would do yourself a huge favor if you sit alone, think 4, 5, 6 steps ahead, and make sure that you at least have a solid explanation on how you can overcome the obstacles. It might not be the right one. You might be totally wrong, but at least you'd have an explanation that could make sense.
That will also increase the respect that your team has for you. And respect is extremely important for a leader to have from his teammates.
Yeah. I think they'll respect that a lot. They'll see that you're putting us on a journey, but you thought about it well. You're not just throwing us out there and just like make it happen. You did your homework. Yeah.
You have a vision, you have a mission, and you know where you're going with all this. I am willing to follow you.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I think that is 100% true. I think the other thing that worked well for me personally is the study of philosophy. I think something that's undervalued when you go into a startup is it's how you maintain your spirit. Your spirit is going to get wrecked. It's going to get wrecked like all the time. Like if I look at my startup career over like maybe 10 years-ish plus, I had maybe a few months that were happy and a lot of months that were hard. So the thing that you want to avoid is when you're working in hard months that your spirit is wrecked. You're working from a negative standpoint. You're working from a mental state where you feel beaten. You can't work from that mind state. It's not going to work. You're not going to be that productive. So in preparations to hard time, I suggest that any startup founder should read into philosophy, should read into even Buddhism, stuff that elevates your spirit. I read books about it. I practice, every day, try to, put these theories into play, because I think these things ultimately will keep your spirits in a healthy way. And if your spirit is up, it's not down, then you'll be more creative, more productive. You'll have much, much better externalities than if you're working from a negative mind state. And again, there's no way of avoiding it. Entrepreneurship is hard. There's going to be a lot of obstacles. And if you're not ready, it's going to wreck you. So be prepared, read your stuff, make sure that you're ready and elevate your spirit as much as you can.
You see, here's a good example of this. Something that happened like today even. So last Friday, there was a huge flood in Montreal. And what happened is there are a couple of places that don't have electricity still today. We're now on Monday. They don't have internet. And even the building that we're currently in didn't add internet at the beginning of today. We could have said, it's not going to work and have a fearful mindset. But instead, it's like, no, let's give it a shot. We still have some preparation to do. Let's just meet at this place right next to it and we'll see what's going to happen. And chances are, just by having a proper mindset, things are going to work out.
Yeah.
And here we are, it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sure we're going to have some great content for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Like resilience, it's just like obstacles are part of the way, and just like how do you go through them, for sure.
Yeah, and there's a quote I really love from Matthew. I have difficulties with his last name.
McConaughey.
Exactly.
Yeah. This match.
So life is not easy. Life is not fair. It never was, it isn't now, and it won't ever be. I really like that. And he even goes on to say that things are more rewarded when you break a sweat for it. So what that means is you have to work hard. And whatever the output is going to be out of you working hard and giving yourself the best that you possibly can is going to be extremely rewarding for you. The least that's going to happen is you will have learned something. So just operate from an abundance mindset and things are going to work out. Just work hard every single day and better yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the harder you work, the better the externalities. The more also you feel that you're owed something. You've worked, you're owed something. You can appreciate life in a better way, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now following this, we want to talk a little bit about our current venture. Like, what do we spend most of our time on currently right now? So Emile, he currently is the CEO of a company called Helium Deploy, where he's going to be able to.
Yeah, absolutely. So we retail hardware products, essentially. So we sell hardware products, and our business is essentially an e-com, and we acquire customers through, we have an app and we have like Google ads that run and stuff. But essentially, like when in any space, and just like in our space, if you don't have something that you're doing a little bit different than anybody else, you're gonna be in for a very hard time. So we always try to find value or try to create value that is divergent from a competition. So although we sell crypto hardware, our main business is revolving around a marketplace for people who are interested into crypto. And what that marketplace is about is essentially like you as a investor who's looking to put money in crypto. A lot of you guys are not down to like go ahead, buy the hardware, install it somewhere, and then managing it. It's very, very complicated. So our product is oriented around a crypto that's called Helium. And Helium, in short, is they're creating a decentralized network. So you can buy a 5G hotspot deployed in the United States and give internet to your neighborhood, essentially. So the process of doing that is a little bit complicated. It doesn't appeal for anybody, because you need to find a location, you need to go on a rooftop, and then you install it and all that kind of stuff. So, but there's a lot of investors who want to be part of it. So what our business right now is centered around is a marketplace to enable these investors to put money for these hotspots and then allow a deployer to find the location and deploy it and then manage it for them. So right now, although we sell the crypto hardware and anybody could buy the hardware from our website, our business is really centered around, if you're an investor, you can put money on Moken. It's the brand where our marketplace resides. So you could put money on Moken, buy the hotspot, and let a deployer like host it. And if you're a deployer and you have locations, you have a lot of locations across the state, and you're like, wow, this neighborhood is popular, I could put a hotspot there, and you know how to install, we will provide you the capital to do that. So we will find investors for you who will put the capital behind you and allow you to go on and deploy a lot of hardware. So that's what we're focused on right now.
Nice.
Yeah. And we came up with that business model really by listening to clients, because we were close to clients, and a lot of our deployers were like, yo, I got a lot of locations, I gotta, I could fill up my whole neighborhood with hotspots, but I don't have the capital. And then when we looked at it from the other side, we were trying to pitch investors to deploy their own hardware. So we went and the guy who would buy this, like let's say his net worth would be like over $5 million. He's very rich. He's like, I want to be part of it, but I'm not gonna go on a rooftop and deploy a 5G thing. I have no idea, but I could put the money though. I could put them. So when we started listening to our customers from that perspective, we're like, okay, interesting. So what if we solve that problem for you? You could just put the money and we'll find somebody for you who can manage your stuff. And then eventually that's how we came up with the business model. And that business model dwarfed our other business model, which was just like sell crypto hardware straight up. Because it's just about the complexity of the problem you're solving. So the first problem, just sell the crypto hardware, it's easy. We got competition from multiple hardware resellers because anybody could do that. But the moment we start solving a tighter problem, a harder problem, competition kind of fades away because people don't want to solve hard problems. So you're the only person in that space trying to solve it. Then the problem is that it becomes hard to do it. But if you pull it off, then your margins are going to be good. Your customer is going to be happy. You're going to run a good business.
I think that's a great example of an entrepreneur. So essentially, you started in one direction. You've seen it was very hard, mostly because those problems were already solved. And then you listen to the customers, what was their real pain. And after that, you realize, oh, well, this pain is not being resolved by any other people in the marketplace. So then you pivoted towards the new direction. It was hard at the beginning, hence the barrier to entry. And then you solve it.
Yeah.
Attracted people, new customers because of that, new investors, and were able to make a decent amount of money out of this structure.
Yeah, absolutely. We probably made the most money. Like we sold like a lot of crypto hardware, but our margins were always tight. Always tight. It was like because you can't decide on your margin, but our new offering was explosive in terms of margin. Mm-hmm. I think we were doing over like 60% on our gross margins, versus like in the crypto hardware when we sell crypto hardware straight up, we were making 15. So the difference is pretty big.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's one of the things. Pick your market, pick your problems, find something that people are not doing, and just do it very, very well.
I like that.
Yeah. What about you, Gislain? Can you tell us a little bit about Renmar?
Sure. So first of all, Renmar is a family-owned business founded in 1936. So I'm currently with my sister, Danielle. We are the third generation. So just that is a huge problem that we are trying to face, which is pivoting a legacy company. So I envision Renmar as a tool where resellers and manufacturers can work together, allowing them to develop new opportunities. So how do we do that? So essentially, Renmar, what we sell is product availability and currently next day delivery anywhere in the world. So,
yeah.
So essentially, the first actor for this is manufacturers. So we will work with manufacturers. What is a manufacturer? A manufacturer is only like a person or a company that builds stuff, manufacture those products, and build a brand around it. Then the manufacturer is going to look for channels to start the distribution process of the goods, of the product that they think is of great value to society. So what is a channel? Like, it can be pretty much anything. One of them, the mostly common on the internet, is direct to consumer. You essentially create a Shopify store, and then you start shipping the orders that you're able to generate from the consumer directly. So that would be one channel. Another one, you want to be in big e-tailer or retailer. So Amazon is going to be another one. And then you can have Walmart, Best Buy. There are multiple e-tailer chains or retailer chains that exist throughout the world. You want to be able to be in those stores. That would be another channel. You also have all the independent resellers. So there's a lot of corner store, mom and pop shop that exists that wants to be able to source products, that wants to have access to your brand because they think, hey, your brand is going to solve products that my customers need. That would be another one. A very recent one that is starting to be created, which is the drop shippers. Drop shippers currently will source the product from AliExpress, from very generic brands. They do not have access to high quality brands. So we allow them to have access to those products.
So do you guys, when you say the channel, so do you guys like also give, if I'm a manufacturer, I come to you guys and you guys like give me like the distribution channel that I could like.
Correct.
Okay.
So right now, Ranmar, we are a distributor. What that means is we deal with manufacturers and resellers as well. So manufacturers can put inventory in our warehouses and resellers can pull. So resellers are part of one or multiple channels that I just described.
Okay.
One of the added value that Ranmar provides to manufacturers and resellers is that whenever a product is being put into our warehouses, we will automatically create the 3D model of your product.
Oh, that's the new tool
that we are currently building. Yes, and it is live.
Yeah.
So we understood that in 2024, like creating content is very important. And once you start looking at different ways of creating content around products, you realize that there are some tools that are being used. And there's also an open source market of data, tools, scenes that it's being called, that you can just source, put the product into it. So what we're doing is the automatization process of that. 3D model, you select a scene that becomes the background. There's also a script that is going to put your products on top of that scene. We will add your branding, your logo. And what's nice is resellers are also able to do such a thing.
So people could come to you, they have products. You'll be able to scan their products and create content with their products without them having to do anything.
Correct, yeah.
So and then they could pick up that product, use it everywhere, social media, their own website, and make it. It is actually for sure. Like, look at us, we're a drop shipper. We rarely do anything about like our 3PL partner. If our 3PL partner, just like who would be like a similar dude like Ranmar, would allow us to make content like this, we would actually use it probably.
Totally.
We would actually put a lot of content on our social media about our physical products, but we actually never do that. We never do that.
That is a pain point that most drop shippers have, but it's actually most brands have. Like, it's very hard still today to generate some content.
Yeah.
Even with all the tools that are out there.
So your strategy then is like you're building a tool to attract people in your ecosystem, like reseller, manufacturer. That tool is going to be like a lead magnet, essentially. Like
exactly.
Right.
Because Ranmar, what we sell is product availability and next day delivery.
Right.
So we will position your inventory properly based on where it's going in our ecosystem of warehouses.
Yeah.
So really, that's how we make our money. It's just we've identified a problem that our customers and suppliers had, and we're like, let's address this problem.
It's the best way. It's such a underrated way for entrepreneur to consider. Like the regular thinking would be like, oh, I'll just sell you on my value proposition, just like I'll try. But I think Alex Hormozi gave that example. He's like, if you're speaking with an audience of 1,000 and you're pitching him on your products, you'll probably get like 2% that are going to be down for whatever you're offering. But if you put a middle step between that and you solve a current problem they have, and then you can pull them over to your offering later. If you have an audience of 1,000 listening to you, maybe your lead magnet will attract like 15% of people who are going to come into your funnel. And then from that 15%, you probably have their. Yeah, 50%, it means it's a hell of a lead magnet. Maybe you should switch your business towards that. But if your lead magnet is decent, it's going to attract a lot of people into it. And then once these people are into your funnel, you can speak with them, you can communicate with them. It makes things so much easier. Yeah. I think like for anybody who's right now doing a business, considering doing a lead magnet between your offering and your clients, I think would be a very, very wise strategy.
Nice. Like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So following that, ideation and strategy
so,
of a
so,
start.
so when are you launching? Is it live? Is it
Yeah, everything is live
okay?
already.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the next episode, maybe we'll give you some results on how that's going.
Just go look at the Ranmar YouTube channel. You can see a bunch of examples. It's already there. It's already usable, and I like it.
Nice.
Hey, you have to do things that you believe in first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because you're gonna spend your time doing it, so you better like what the hell you're doing.
Exactly. And it's not just for a month, right? We've been doing that for years. now.
Yeah. Yeah. So so what is next on the agenda?
So, ideation and strategy of a startup.
Oh yeah.
So, we want to go back to the roots,
Yeah.
right? So, most of the people, like, first of all, the concept of having a legacy company is becoming very rare, mostly because the new generation is not necessarily does not necessarily want to work with their parents, which is totally acceptable. But what's the other options? 9 to 5 or creating your own company? And obviously, we want you to create your own company. This
Yeah.
is how you can add value to society, we think.
Yeah. Honestly, I think now more than ever before, it's so important because we live in Canada, and the staggering metrics that I've seen like last week, I was blown away, and I was like scared at the same time. In the last like couple of years, we had 13% growth in government size, 3.5% growth in private sectors. The government is growing 4 times quicker than the private sector. Wow, what do we call this? Like, there's a magic word for this, you know. So this is kind of scary. So more than ever, I agree with you so much. More than ever, it's the time. Like ideas, we need people to start doing shit. It's super, super important. Yeah. So with that being said, how much time do we have for this? Like whatever. So look, I'll share some of what worked for me as also again a startup founder. And I think if these things I didn't start using them from the beginning. By the way, these are just things that across my career I'm like, wow, this kind of worked. And by the way, whatever I tell you, I don't stick to it 100%. Also, like I have I go in and out of these habits as much as possible. I try to maintain them, but these are things that kind of worked for me over time. So one of the things I think is super important is how you ideate, how you come up with new ideas. And I think you need to like leverage different tools out there. So I think an underrated tool is just writing. Just write, structure your thoughts. Like you have a lot of thoughts, and until you don't put them somewhere in an organized manner, they'll stay like kind of unorganized in your brain. And the problem is 2 things. Number one, you can't build on top of these thoughts if they're not organized. But the other problem is your brain is not going to have new thoughts because your brain is just like holding the old stuff and it's just like try to like, make sure that you don't forget any of these pieces. So I think it is super important that for me personally, what I have a drive. I have a daily journal. I have a drive, and every day when I start my day, I write like, what was the difference between yesterday? What is the difference between today? Gislain does the same thing on his own. We have that continuous debate. He doesn't like the fact that I use my keyboard and computer. He writes it on his own pad. Whatever it is, the tool for you to pick. But put your thoughts out there, and I would suggest for you to start with that almost on a daily basis. Then, of course, you can use other tools like whiteboards, which is another way for you to be creative. But it's I think both should be used. Whiteboards, writing, use whatever you can to put ideas out there. The other thing that I think was kind of like underrated in my startup career, even when I started, is financial projections. First of all, they're all going to be wrong. Okay, whatever you're projecting is probably not going to be accurate, but there's going to be some truth to it. So financial projection is going to help you at least like be realistic in terms of how many signups do you need, how many can you convert into like good leads, and how many can you close. And just by putting percentages out there on this funnel, it's going to force you to think, well, is my strategy strong enough to convert 20% of that? And then you're like, probably not. Then you're going to go revisit your strategy and see how you can make it work. But today, compared to when compared to like 2010, 2014, we have ChatGPT. Financial projection. If the problem, I remember when I started off as an entrepreneur, that's what they taught me in my incubators, in my all these things, incubators, startup accelerators, whatever you want to call them. They're like financial projections, and they're right. They were 100% correct that these are important. The problem is that they made us spend weeks on doing them, and then so if you spend a lot of time doing that and they're wrong, it's just a waste of time. Now I am 100% advocating for them because you can leverage Chat GPT with just a few messages with ChatGPT. You can have a financial model done within like half an hour. And I think for that amount of effort, it's a perfect tool to help you like ideate on your strategy.
Agree.
The other thing that I like to use a lot is I think it's obviously, like, I'm going to say the obvious, but read a lot of books. Like, books are important, but what I like to use recently is a mixture of ChatGPT and books, because in relationship to what I'm saying about when you're ideating, I start off my day sometimes and I'm like, the problem that I need to focus on my company today is, let's say, around like execution. I'm like, shit, I feel like for the past few weeks we've been executing like very, very badly. So what I like to do is I ideate, writing, and then I also use ChatGPT to bring back one of the books I read about execution. And I asked ChatGPT to tell me to act like Stephen Doerr, the guy who made the OKR book. I'm like, today you'll be like, boom, like this guy. So tell me all about OKRs and how I should, orient my company around this concept. And that also helps me think through problems very, very well. That worked for me. I would highly suggest it.
Especially when you're stuck and you don't know where to go. The solution is sometimes just do something different. Just put yourself in a different environment.
Yeah.
You will start thinking differently because you're now in a space that you've never been before. So your brain is going to create new thoughts.
This is so accurate. This is so accurate. Yeah, this is so accurate. I think, one of my flaws personally is that I don't do that enough. I go into the same pattern, and my workspace is there and where I live is there, and I take the same road, and it's true that sometimes, like, shit, man, I've been doing the same thing for way too long. It is so true that you hit a new environment and you think differently.
Totally.
I saw you leverage that a lot.
Well, I judge that for me it's very important to live one day that you have never lived before. So every single day you need to do one thing that is going to be totally different from any other day. Hence why we're doing that as well. We wanted to try something different. Okay, fine. What are the podcast studios that are in Montreal? Okay, we found one. Reserve online. Hey, we're doing that.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think this is so right. Specifically, again, for startup founders who are, naturally are going to go through the same bullshit days for a long time. You just need to snap out of it sometime and just like, so what are the things that you can do differently? Like what are the options? Like you can go on a trip. You could,
it can be just as easy. You mentioned ChatGPT, right?
Yeah,
and the way that you do your writing and your ideation. So very simply, try to look for a new book that you've never read before, and then ask ChatGPT, hey, put myself into this person and tell me what I should do next.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're now, if you follow it, putting yourself in a new environment. And that can be something that you use just to kickstart a new ideation process.
Yeah. I think that's very accurate. And I think, now I'm thinking about it also, like one of the things that we used to do, and because Gislain and I used to work in the same company at some point. So one of the things you were actually like pushing a lot was just like bringing people out of the office into a retreat in your chalet, actually in North. And we used to do that at least once a week, right?
It was at least once a week. We needed to do one thing different. So chalet, the retreat was one of them. We were doing that for a month, maybe. Sometimes it was like karting, or let's try a different restaurant. It's like you're in a society with endless possibilities. Just go do something different. That is a life hack that I use for myself, and I promote around with different other companies' culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I've been involved in a lot of startups, and actually from the startups I've been involved with, no one actually like uses that. We are actually, the default state is just come back to what we did yesterday. and let's just do that for life until something happens. And and even when you get, you know, more successful, it doesn't change. Like, you'll still keep on doing the same thing. So somebody in the company needs to take on that responsibility. A culture person, like, you need to make people snap out of what they're doing on a daily basis.
And that's a big part of ideation. Just because, yes, yourself, you need to think differently, but your team as well. It's very important that your teammates and the people that you are leading also think differently, because they will have different problems, and you don't want them to solve those problems the same way that they were solving it 10 years ago. It's not going to work. You don't want that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, one thing that from our own experience that I think was interesting is we have two modes in our company so far. So we had when we started off our company, we were more of a travel company. So, like, we didn't sell travel services, but we traveled. we leverage whatever, you know, opportunity. It's a software business. So we have an app, we have an e-com, so we could travel, and we travel a lot. The downside with traveling was the traveling itself. Like, I remember at the time I was like, wow, it's kind of consuming our time, it's efforts and stuff. But one thing I noticed that was so impressive, every time we landed in a new place, we came up with a thing that generated the most revenue for us, the most. And we were actually working a lot less. So, for example, we landed in Thailand at a point. We took the whole company retreat. We go in a big house in Thailand, and everybody had to work from Thailand. Okay,
this is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of the best times ever. I remember though that we weren't working as much though. I remember, like, when we work in Montreal, like, we work like 8 hours, 9 hours, like, whatever, all the time. But over there, we didn't work as much. But something happened. As soon as we landed there, we started working on an idea that we're like, shit, we think, or like, it was the Moken idea that I introduced earlier. So we started working on an idea that we're like, our customers are gonna like. And from that idea, we did well over like $1 million in sales right off the bat. Like, within just landing in Thailand, we just did that, I think, 30 days after, from that simple idea.
What a return on investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the time I was looking at it, I was like, this is pretty fucking pricey to, you know, fly everybody there, like, it's fucking expensive. But but at the same time, we're like, something is going to come out of it. And it's true, like, the new environment, I don't know what it is, but just to your point about, like, changing your environment leads to ROI, I think it really is. I think it really does. It really does.
Here's another data set for you. Remember, go do one thing different.
Yeah. You know what I do when I'm stuck? I think what worked really well for me is just call customers. When I'm stuck, I just call customers. I'm like, hey, what's up with you? And first of all, they like it because they're like, wow, this guy's calling me out of nowhere. It's pretty interesting. And then I try to, like, empathize with them. I try to understand what is their problem, what's holding them from putting a next purchase order with us. And then, you know, from a lot of these conversations, I'm able to cipher out, like, very, very good insights.
Totally. There's also one thing, legacy company, relationship with the people is of extreme value. This is something that I feel was lost over time. But personally, whenever I go to a new city where there's a customer of ours or just a potential customer, go meet the people there. You're going to learn so much from, first of all, you will see their environment, and then they will share with you the problems that they have.
That's a very good point. Like, go meet people. I think, like, our biggest contracts that we got, like, our biggest sales, actually, not our contracts, they're consumer people, but we met them.
Mm-hmm.
And from memory, the people that we met actually spent the most amount of money with us. So, yeah.
We're all humans at the end of the day, right? So one thing that we value is the human connection.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no way around that, for sure. For sure. And you know, with that being said, when you're speaking with customers, I think it leads to another point that I think is interesting also. And when you're, again, my people that I'm talking with should be like, you know, startup founders, you're running a team of 5 to 10, you're building software in the unknown. And I think the unknown is very important. If you're building software in the known, then, you know, my messaging is not going to resonate with you. But I'm speaking with people who are building software in the unknown. And one of the things that I think is very much underappreciated when you're building software in the unknown is having somebody on the team who is like a product owner or a business dev. I think like, leading to our conversation, we had last time we had a breakfast. Like one of the things that I think I've done, with my team as a big mistakes, and specifically when you got quality people writing code for you, with you. Oh, well, with you. I don't write code, but with, for me, I think there's that need, will, or easiness of just jumping into the code itself and just like starting writing, putting products out. The problem with that is that writing code is expensive and it doesn't change easily. So decisions you do with that code is, pretty much
you're going to be stuck with them for a long time.
You're stuck with them for a long time. So what I strongly advise for startup founders who are working in the unknown is have someone on the team who's doing business dev, who's leading the product team by about 2 to 3 weeks. Leave that person. Let that person speak with customers, lead the product. And most of the time, it's going to be the CEO. I think that's your job. You're going to have to do that job. You're going to have to speak with, customers. And you're going to have to be you have to lead product from that perspective. But I found that a lot of the time, I remember in my startup experience, I didn't do that role. And then I let the product team just make a lot of decisions towards product. And then we took the product, try to put it to clients, apply it to clients. And the clients were like, well, yeah, okay, but we need these things changed. So I think a much more effective thing or strategy would be to have somebody who's leading product like 2 or 3 weeks ahead. And then, to the point where you can ask that product, like in our team, it's like Abel's doing that a lot. I'm doing that a lot with him, but we're both doing that. And then we try to ask Abel, how can we make your job easier, faster, quicker for you to deliver services? So I think that's a role that I think is super important in tech startups. Have a business person who's speaking with clients, who finds the insights, who explains how the product should be built at least like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of your sprints of product development.
Yeah, I agree. So as a leader, you need to have the vision for sure. But it's also important that, okay, where are we right now? Where do I want to go? And that you're able to create a path for this to happen.
Yeah.
Hence the importance of being 2, 3, 4 weeks ahead of where you currently are.
Yeah. How do you do it with Renmore?
Well, for me, it's a shorter time span. So essentially, I ensure that at the beginning of each week, I speak with key people in my company, and then I will have the things that I want them to focus on this week.
Do you speak with everybody on the same day, or like it could be like?
So we have this that's happening every Tuesday in the morning. The whole team is there, but that's a simple formality in the sense that everybody just talks about what they are working on, what they have been working on in the past, and what will they work on in the future. What's good about that, it just puts everybody on the same page. It's like, yes, I will have my meetings with the people individually. And after that, it's like, okay, well, we know this is what we need to focus on this week or in the next 2 weeks. That's where we're going. And after that, we also have put some like processes in place that are actually very well thought of, in the sense that I can take anybody new, put them in a position, and right away they will understand what they have to do next. They don't rely on having somebody that will micromanage them. And I think this is something that is extremely hard to put in place, is you want to have new people that come in and know right away what they need to do.
How to contribute.
Exactly. Yeah. Without taking the time from somebody else that is going to be very valuable to your company, that you don't necessarily want them to start micromanaging like other people.
So what are the ways that you use to do that?
So one of my glitch is the fact that my background is software engineering. So I know very well software. And look, here's something that I will share with you guys. When I arrived in the company in 2016, I arrived in May and we got hacked in November and we lost everything.
And by the way, like I'm talking from a perspective of startup founder. I have a little team of 5-10. Gislain has a massive company. Like it's like getting hacked like at a startup level. You can just like reboot it. But you have a lot of customers, a lot of people who depends on it.
Exactly. So at the time, we had 6 warehouses, and none of them could operate. Like, we lost all our operations just because of one ransomware. And I looked at it, and it's like most of it is not done the way that I envisioned the company. So I decided to rebuild everything from scratch. So then what started happening is you take control of one processes and then another one, and then you start building something quite big. So to your question, one of the glitch that I have is I'm also the product owner. So everybody resolves around the software. So there's not one decision that can be made without my approbation. So that's really what I use. And then when you have somebody new on the team, it's like, just go to the software. What is your main responsibility? This is that's the current state. Okay, that's what I have to do next. And then it's about transparency, ensuring that conversation are being made public. If you have some questions, refer to the conversation. And furthermore, now with tools, and you were talking about ChatGPT, internally we use Google and Gemini. Now you can ask Gemini, hey, what's up with this customer? What's up with that supplier? And since it has access to all your emails, it can just pull up those information.
That's pretty crazy.
And now this tool is being rolled out around Google Chat. So just the fact that we put conversation public, it allows anyone to just search on those conversation and further and more ask an AI tool to summarize a problem that we're having.
That's pretty crazy. So yeah, you said something interesting. You said, "What up with this customer?" I think speaking with customers, being close to them is something that is super important. It's something that is often lost. I often lost. Like I can go personally. Like I look at my sometimes like journey, and there's like 6 months I haven't spoken with a customer, and I wonder why we always we're not building the right shit. Because I'm like, I look at it and I'm like, shit, we haven't spoken with a single customer. It's been like 6 months. And the times where we speak with customers, we start building good stuff. I think it's just about getting to the habit of like continuously just, your job is to pick up the phone and speak with customers. It is just much more, it is an easier process to not speak with customers and just build software. It feels better. It's easier. There's more, there's less like new information that comes in. You feel more confident, but ultimately the results are going to speak for themselves.
So there's the concept of fear. We're now afraid to talk with people, which is very strange because that's what makes us humans, right? To go back with this. So talking with people is extremely important.
Yeah.
And I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. So it's fine. So yeah, we were saying, speaking with customers, it was an important thing. And it's true that people are afraid of speaking with customers. And
now essentially what I wanted to say is we now live in a digital era, right? So most people actually grew up now with having a screen in between you and the person that you are talking to or you want to just provide value to. So this is something that you want to ensure you take it away from the relationship. You want it to be as personal as possible. And the more you put those technological layers in between, this is where you're now afraid to do some fundamental things about the human nature, such as communicating with others.
Really, right? Really. And I mean, if you're a CEO of a company, you'll need to figure out how to speak with customers. I feel it's so important. I feel like you can't be a good CEO of a company if you're like shy or like you can't. It's not going to work. It's definitely not going to work.
You will find other ways to make it happen. But regardless of that part, just get out of your comfort zone. Regardless of how you define yourself, if you get out of your comfort zone, at all the opportunities that you can, I think at the end of the day, you will better yourself, but also create opportunities for you and your company.
For me, also, what work with speaking with customers is having a persona and hypothesis in mind before I speak with customers.
Okay.
It helped me like start bucketing them into like, because like if your business makes sense, you're gonna you're gonna attract, you should attract the same kind of people who are, you know, trying to achieve the same kind of job to be done. You should see a thread. And so for me, like what worked really well, I go on a whiteboard, I hypothesize about who our customer is. Like what do they want to do? What, for example, I'll give you an example in our, like to be specific, in our business, I said we help deploy 5G hotspots on rooftops in the United States to create a 5G network for helium. And what I figured recently was that our customers are actually people who initially I thought, oh, our customers must be filled with crypto people. It's just crypto people. It's just like, but actually not. Our customers are people who used to work for Dish Network, are people who change air condition, are people who fix rooftops, are people who install satellite cameras.
So entrepreneurs.
And then I asked myself the question, why? How come these? I thought we attracted crypto people. But in fact, these types of customers are the people who, number one, have a massive amount of locations to deploy hotspots in the right areas, which the normal regular crypto people doesn't have. Like, you know, he's interested in spending, but he doesn't have the locations to do the job. The other thing is that this segment itself is handy, so they know how to install.
Yeah.
So all that to say that before speaking with customers, what helped me a lot is I hypothesize about who our customer is, what are they trying to do, what are they trying to achieve, and then when I speak with customers, I try to validate these hypotheses. I'm like, you know, I spoke with 4 customers who are actually like this, so it kind of like validates my thoughts. But whenever I have a set of hypotheses and I do speak with customers, and the way I speak with customers is just really random. I just go through a list. I speak with the people who bought a lot recently. And I just try to speak with them. And the moment where I noticed a new trend, like a new type of customers, I'm like, wow, I'm surprised. Wow, who are these people? So then if that happens a lot, then I have to go back to the whiteboard, re-hypothesize about, you know, why are we attracting that type of segment? Who are these people? And try to better understand that segment. But yeah, so before speaking with customers, lay out hypotheses on a whiteboard and then go out there and speak with them.
Nice, I like that.
Yeah, I think that worked kind of well for me. Obviously everybody have their own strategies, but that for me is kind of a good thing. So are we off to do you still have like other subjects?
No, very good. Yeah, the next thing that I want to talk about, I think it's something that most people tend to forget, and it's like the beginning of money. Like, why is like the USD being the USD that it is today? Like, how did that came out to be? And for any entrepreneurs, I think that is something that is extremely important. And why I'm saying that, it's because we are starting to see with cryptocurrencies something very similar to the beginning of the USD happening with a new technology now, which is cryptocurrency.
Yeah. The same dynamics. Like the dynamics we were assisting back then is there, it was fragmented. It was fragmented. There was like a kind of a hole for who's going to lead. And I feel like, you know, today more than ever, like it's kind of reopening. You have the BRICS coming in. You have the USD currency not being as solid as it was. And you have not cryptocurrency. So people are like, could there be a new emergent winner? Could they be?
Could it be? Because now there's a new technology being available that is 10 times better than the old one. And we know that as soon as there's a new technology that is at minimum 10 times better than the previous one, chances are it will disrupt the previous one.
Yeah.
So what happened in 1776 when like the US declared its independence on, well, the British at the time, you had about 13 different colonies. But now, since the British pound wasn't the main currency, it created room for anybody and anyone or any corporation to create their own, as long as there was trust between the two individuals that were doing commerce.
Yeah.
So at the time, like there was the British pound, there was the Spanish dollar because it was the currency used for international commerce. You had the colonial money, and you also had like commodity. So you could exchange a service for, let's say, a pound of tobacco because that was value to people and they were willing to use that as a mean of exchange.
Yeah. It was fragmented.
Extremely. And then later on, like obviously there's one that is going to be used for most of the commerce that people are going to put their trust into and grow their businesses around it. And that came to be the USD, first at the national level and then at the international level. So now the thing that I want people, well, just that I want to voice my opinion on, is that we are seeing the exact same things around cryptocurrencies. So you can have, let's say, Ethereum, or let's use Bitcoin, for example, that I think is going to be the gold of the new currencies that are going to be created. And that gold, as we know it today, is solving the problem for our fiat money that we're currently using. So you have, let's say, Ethereum, that you have businesses that are being created on top of this blockchain, and people are transacting into this like token.
Yeah.
So all this to say, the same thing that was happening in 1776 is currently happening today with a brand new technology.
Because I think like in like whatever date you said, I think at the time it was fragmented. There was no clear winner.
Correct.
And then there was a clear winner for a long time. And then now it's the beginning of a no clear winner. It's the beginning of, where, what's going to be the main currency in 30 years. We wouldn't bet it's going to be the USD. It could be, but it's not a clear thing anymore. It was a clear thing when in 1960, for example, you'd say, oh, it's going to be the USD for a long time. It's not the case anymore. For many reasons. Like you said, there's a emergent technology that is much better. Much better. It's easier. Cryptocurrency allows people to transact at a faster pace. And what's the term? No permission money?
Permissionless.
Permissionless money. It's permissionless money. And there was always a middle party and there's always people in the middle, but now it's permissionless. So among other attributes that they have. But I think one thing that's interesting is that the USD is also shooting themselves in the leg. By becoming the main currency, by being the main currency for a long time, I think they're overreaching their power. One of the things that they're fucking up is really the sanctions. Right now, I've seen a study yesterday about that actually, and I was blown away. I think it's close to 50%. 50% of all the countries in the world are being sanctioned by the United States. Like they're leveraging their their position to sanction all these countries. So, and what I've also read in that study was super interesting is that sanctions are one way. So they sanction, but they never sanction you out. So when you're sanctioned, you're just blacklisted. And I find that so stupid from the USD to leverage their position to kill their position like this, because all this ultimately what it does is push people to the BRICS currencies, to alternative methods to transact.
Alternative, I agree.
Yeah. So I don't know who makes decisions up there, but like it is not a smart way to ban 50% of the countries out of your currency.
Especially that we're now in an era where you will do commerce with pretty much any country, any people in the world, regardless of where you physically are. And the technology right now is allowing us to do that. You were talking about being in Thailand. Well, you will use your currency, convert it into the currency that is going to be accepted there. But the reality is you don't care what is the currency that is accepted there, as long as you're able to transact into this physical place.
Yeah, exactly.
So now those sanctions, I guess they are creating new pathways for people to, hey, I still want to go there. I still want to transact at this location. I still need my morning coffee regardless of where I am in the world. What are you going to accept? That is what I'm going to give you.
Yeah. So you see an emergence of new money. in the coming years? You see it as like,
We already see it with different cryptocurrencies, and you being involved in the Helium ecosystem. Helium is a company that is building on top of Solana, right?
yeah,
So in order for whatever service that you render for Helium, you are being paid in Solana coin
yeah,
ultimately.
yeah,
So that is the coin that you will then use to start transacting with like other people. And if you are able to not transfer it into another one, that will be preferable.
yeah.
So you will also start doing business with other people that are part of this ecosystem.
Yeah. So yeah, so you're hinting at the fact that, maybe there's a future where private companies have their currencies, and people might prefer those over the nation states one.
Yeah, possibly.
I
Yeah,
think that's a possibility.
yeah, that's a possibility.
I think that's a possibility, and the nation state are aware of this, and they're like trying to protect it from all kinds. But yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility. I think over time that the nation state, nation states are going to be just in trouble. Just, I mean, they were super important in the 1900s, but over time, by offering protections for physical businesses and people who invest
Mhm.
into you invest in the United States, I offer you protection. I'll protect your factory.
They offered the marketplace for people to transact.
Exactly. But now that the marketplace is somewhere else, and also your business, also the investments of your business is into AWS, Amazon,
Correct. Yeah.
So you're like the infrastructure of what it used to be. You still have warehouses, but I could even argue that 50% of your business is online, 50% is like the code versus the.
Exactly. So, well, in my case, like, it's a software. So yes,
Yeah.
it resides somewhere,
Exactly.
and whatever currency they want me to pay in, I will pay with that currency.
Exactly, but more importantly, like it's going to be Amazon that protects your code, not the government. See, like it used to be like in the 1990s, like who protect your business, which was a very, very important piece of why nation states became popular. They were offering protection to your physical infrastructure. They're like, it's going to be safe here. No one's going to touch it. But if your business is code, then they're not offering their protection for your business. So ultimately, it's going to be someone else who will do that, and then it's going to open the door for new opportunities. New market is going to change a little bit for sure.
Yeah. And in your case, that would be, let's say, Solana, for example, where Solana is going to host all the codes, all the transactions, and ultimately that's what you will be using for
Yeah.
commerce, because that is the marketplace that you are using.
Yeah, absolutely. So should we just
So yeah, moving on. So essentially, we have seen throughout history a couple of revolutions happening, right? So the first revolution, maybe in 1760, where you had the hand production, people using their hands to produce stuff, was now delegated to machines, which was really the
what day
first
was it?
in 1760. And now at the time, it was like, oh, it's going to disrupt everything, put people out of business, and so on. But the reality is just humanity evolved around this, right? We adapted ourselves, we built new skills, new knowledge, and then we were able to leverage that, grew society around it, and do the same thing again in 1870. That when electricity and petroleum really took over as the main source of energy for society. And then the same thing, oh, it's going to put the workers around the machine out of jobs and so on. But again, humanity adapted to this new technology. For then to happen a third time in 1960. So that was the digital revolution. So with computers and internet. So again, the same thing happened.
Yeah, the internet is 1960.
Correct. Yeah.
It's something that like I'm not. I was like half aware.
I think it's like 1971 or like in those area that really internet was invented. But the revolution around computers, because internet cannot exist without computers, really started in 1960s. So and again, like if you're an entrepreneur, you could have seen this and say, hey, well, it's going to disrupt my business, or say, hey, you know what? Let's embrace this new technology and build around it.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but at the time in 1960, there wasn't a lot of people building yet around like computers, right? It didn't like pick off yet.
Correct. Mostly because of the size. Like you needed to have a full room just to have one like small calculator. Like
Yeah, it's not efficient for sure.
and not accessible for most people as
Yeah,
well.
it's true.
You know, it was only like wealthy companies that were able to afford such a tool.
Yeah.
But it was always like that, right? The wealthiest one will develop it, take the edge, and then it's going to be more accessible to everyone as the technology develops.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, in 2010, we started to see a new one starting that is around like robotics, really full on automation, and specifically AI. So, one thing that I want to say about AI is you have to see this technology as an operating system, right? So, you currently, maybe you're watching that on YouTube on your computer. So, this computer, chances are maybe a Windows or Mac iOS, and then you will use Google Chrome to watch this content. It's going to be the same thing. It's just with different hardware. You're not going to have, let's say, this computer or that phone. It's going to be something else. So, AI, if you see that as an operating system that's going to have its own app store where people, businesses are going to be able to develop on top of it, there is a huge opportunity for entrepreneur where there's 30 years of hardware to be replaced. Like I don't see my computer like running AI the way that I'm doing it right now. It's going to be totally different.
So it's going to require like new chips, new way of producing these things, new. Do you think it's going to be the same companies who are going to produce them, or it's going to be new ones?
Uh, well, I think, well, you're seeing Nvidia taking a huge part of this market share. Used to be Intel, for example. Intel is still very there. Like they are well adapting. It's just the other companies are seeing this opportunity and growing around them. It's which company can adapt the fastest to it is going to have the first mover advantage.
Right. Right.
And right now, we are seeing that most of the data centers are being, changed from CPU based data centers to a GPU based, or like there are now um, MLL chips made for AI specifically, and they are leveraging that. And it's only a matter of time before it comes to the consumer. Like, I see those OS as like voice activated mostly. Like I don't envision an AI being built around a mouse. Like that's not going to happen. It's just so disruptive. It can just with a camera and a microphone, it's going to be able to gather so much data and to adapt and to offer value that is going to be so much better than the value a computer provides with like your mouse.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're seeing the opportunity uh, as new software that needs to be built to interact with those AI systems, new hardware also.
Correct. So it's on both ends. It's your business that was operating around paper in the 1960s had to move towards new hardware, new technology, and it's going to be exactly the same thing now. So yeah, there's huge opportunity for everybody. If you think that, okay, AI is an operating system, it will replace everything that we're currently doing, and it's going to be embedded in also every pieces of hardware and in every um, interaction.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, I then think that it is important for people who are in the innovation space and technologies to start to play with these LLM a little bit. You
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Start playing with it. Start building something that you think is useful. Might not work. We try to do a chatbot to help all our customers. It kind of worked. It kind of worked.
Can you talk about this experience? Because you are a good example of somebody, hey, I have a business.
Yeah.
I don't know much about AI. Let's learn about it. Let's build something that will provide value to our customers. And I think you've done it like
Yeah.
pretty well.
Yeah. So yeah, for sure. Like in a space like we've seen the problem that, you know, we our customers are very much, as I said, there are people who go on rooftops, they deploy stuff. And in the crypto space, it's kind of there's a lot of information. There's so much information. So what we thought would be a good use case, what kind of worked right now, is we let our customers interact with our chatbot that is powered by OpenAI, so ChatGPT, and we give to ChatGPT all the documentation, the like 40 plus, 50 plus like pages of like problems that can come with the hardware, tools that they need, tips, whatever. And also like, you know, in the crypto space, there's always new what we call improvements that are added to the network that are voted among the community.
In any software, any business, there's always new data and information that are
Yeah.
now relevant to the current
Very
state.
true. Like new updates, there's always that kind of stuff for sure. So in our case, what we wanted to make sure is that our deployers, our customers who we speak with a lot, well, they don't really care about like reading all the new docs that come out for that cryptocurrency and all the new ways of like managing the hotspot.
Arguably, I don't even think they care about Helium.
No, they don't care. They just want to deploy, make money, and just like make it as smooth as possible. So our use case was we'll package all that documentation and in a document, let OpenAI speak with the customer and try to understand what they really want. So if you ask our chatbot specific question, it's going to kind of understand what you're referring to, and it's going to try to give you the most relevant information for that point. The alternative, which I look at the alternative all the time to see like, you know, where's our value? The alternative would be for the person to cipher out through like 40, 50 pages of documents and then find the relevant pieces, which they're not going to do. So essentially the alternative doesn't exist. So we try to make it as simple for them as possible. And honestly, like the process of using OpenAI for all of that is very simple. It's very, very easy. And it's very, very interesting. It's very interesting because like one of the things we notice is that you can ask OpenAI like the same questions multiple, it's going to give you different results. I don't know why it does this, but like that was an interesting fact where like you can't program it to be it's what they call it undeterministic or something.
Yeah.
Anyways, the possibility is just endless, you know?
Yeah.
So you can ask it a few times the same question. It's going to give you different results. It's interesting. And I think it's going to adapt based on like the quality of how people interact with it. For us, it was pretty easy to put that in place and also allowed us to erase a lot of our support people.
Oh, for sure.
Erase, like put them for other tasks that is more valuable.
Correct. So again, we talked about AI and like not erasing people, but allowing people to adapt. So obviously now, because of this tool, I'm sure you're able to gather a lot more requests and solve a lot more problems because of that. And just ensuring that with one resources that will oversee everything, that, okay, is everything well? Did it work out? Yes. And then if the answer is no, come to me, I will be able to ensure.
Exactly. I think it's a no-brainer for any company to do that because in our case, the alternative was take all that documentation, teach our support people every page of it so they're aware of the whole thing, and then put them in front of our customers, which in most cases we A/B test. And the chatbot with little programmation, like, you know, delivered like an experience that was like 5 times better than like the human people supporting it. However, to your point about reorganizing people and put them to more productive stuff, we took our support people who are very knowledgeable in some areas of, you know, our business and put them on very harder questions. So where the chatbot wasn't able to just like spit you out easy answers, the human will kick in and will answer stuff that is a little bit more creative that would, you know, that a chatbot cannot do itself.
Totally. So for me, the advice that I give to most of my customers in regards to AI is simply just build a PDF document that very well expresses the services that you render. In that PDF, then add links to different resources that are relevant for the AI to know about your company. So we currently have a PDF of about like, it's now 60 pages of every page, very well structured for a human to take. Okay, that's what we do. So the value is right away to like my own customers about Brandmar. But now, furthermore, I can even take this PDF, put it in ChatGPT or Google Gemini, and now it knows everything that it needs to do to know about the company, the services that we render, how we do it, and then it has external links that it can index and use to support any request that somebody will ask. So my advice to everyone, just build a PDF or one URL that is going to be the start of an AI taking your data, your information, and then use it to service.
It's going to be the beginning. It's going to be the beginning of at least understanding how to leverage that technology. But for sure, you should, for sure it's going to be interesting, the next steps. But yeah, that is an easy step for anybody just to start seeing what this technology is about.
So in your case, when you've built this AI or chatbot on top of ChatGPT, most of what you've did is simply refer like links.
Yeah, basically, that's it.
You add links and then you give it some how you want it to answer and some adjustments. But overall, just from links that are publicly available, those things can very well add value to your business.
Our job was to do the job once. So we just had to organize a document in a very clear format about what's inside, what's the links, what is it. We just had to do the job once. And then update it every now and then.
Of course.
But that's it. And then OpenAI ChatGPT takes care of the rest of interacting with the customer, of like understanding exactly what the customer is referring to and like spitting him the right stuff. That's ChatGPT's job. But that's just the beginning of us understanding how we can leverage it. Now that we've seen this, I can now imagine like adjusting our web pages based on the customers, based on a lot of data. You can give ChatGPT all our Shopify data. Maybe give it all the Shopify data and tell this is what it is. This is how our customers interact, and it could even better maybe recommend how we can change our own web pages. Because right now we're like we haven't tried that yet, but in theory it should be possible. Like the thing that right now that we have to do is look at our stack of data and look at there's 20% conversion funnels there, there's 15% conversion funnel there. What should we do? But in theory, like ChatGPT knows. Like if you first of all, it could read the data better than you could. So you could just give it the data, upload the CSV file. For any startup founder right now who's using Heap or any kind of like tracking software on your website, you could just give that data to ChatGPT in theory, and then it should be able at some point. I don't know if it does it right now. I didn't try it, but at some point it's going to be able to tell you, well, look, based on your funnels, we think that you should change the page to blue and put that wording. That wording would stick much better than your own wording. And change the value propositions to this.
I can confirm it's doing that.
Right. I'm sure, right? I'm sure. You see, we're already. I'm saying this, and I feel like we're already behind. We're not even leveraging that. I don't know why we're not leveraging that, but so I mean, yeah, that's.
But for this, what I will say is, education. All right, so people used to do something in one specific way. If you don't ensure that now the people on your team and your like community and your customers, suppliers are not transitioning to this new way of doing, well, you will never do it. That is for sure. Yeah. But if you insist on, okay, hey, you're my key pillars in my company, you need to leverage those tools. Yeah. It is mandatory now that whatever you are about to do, just run it through that tool, ensure that, this is what's going to provide the highest yield of return.
It is 100%. It's very, very true what you said, because the default state would just be reuse what you know and just reuse all the time until the thing you're using actually don't supply the service anymore and they ask you to update.
Until it breaks.
So, but you will face a lot of resistance, right? Like try to force it, or try to ask your team to use this new thing that they might not understand on the spot. They're like, why are we doing this? It's harder, it's longer. I could do it the other way around. It's much easier.
Well, in my case, yes and no. So why I'm saying that, it's because like I pretty much control like the software that everybody uses. So if I want to, like I actually has done I've done that like so many times. Such a good way. Just block the other way of like you have the new path that you want people to take, and you have the regular one that they always take.
Yeah.
So if you don't want them to take this path anymore, just cut it. Now this is what you will do. But if you don't have control over the path that your employees are doing, for sure it's going to be harder to impose on them. But technology nowadays, like it shouldn't be hard to just say, okay, now we're not using that, we're using this, just by going in your subscription,
Yeah.
readjusting it. So
Yeah.
really, a path that I'm using that works very well, simply remove the old path and put like the emphasis on the new one.
Yeah. I think it's important. I think it's important for all just startup founders to do that. Like, every now and then, just update your stack of what you guys use. Make sure that you're always on the freshest technology, because the benefits won't be obvious. It's not going to be obvious, from the get go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just gonna. If you know the technology is going to move in that space, and if you're not there, you're just going to be behind when the switch will happen. Because companies right now across the planet are trying to leverage AI in some shape or form in their companies. I read a study that already like a huge amount of the companies that specialize in support are trying a bunch of things with AI to leverage it, which will diminish their costs, improve the customer experience. But of course, right now, if you're not at least trying new stuff in the AI space, you're going to be left behind in a few years.
Yeah, the real competition on the marketplace, I think it's going to be people leveraging AI and people who don't.
Yeah.
So, or companies.
Yeah.
So I think first step, just learn those tools. It's going to provide you with so much value, and you're going to be able to go the extra mile like quite easily.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so look, maybe to close things off here, what I would say is that although you're a startup founder, you're hustling, you're struggling hustling, and you're trying to lead a team, you're trying to get financing, you're trying to do all these things, marketing, find product market fit, whatever it is. The good thing is that it actually gets better. It does get better. It 100% will, only if you put a lot of effort and you upgrade yourself, you read a lot of books. But over time, it's going to get better. And it's going to get more fun also, much more fun. Like, initially when in my first years as being an entrepreneur, I didn't have a lot of levers that I could play with because I didn't have a lot of skills. I came in as a person who could sell. That was like my focus. I could sell, but that was pretty much, I couldn't plan. I couldn't do marketing. I couldn't do a lot of these things. I often compare it to like playing a video game in 1999. You had like, your character can only do 2 moves. And it's not that fun when it could only do 2 moves. But over time, when you get really good at it and you read a lot of books and you practice, you kind of get the right mentorship, you go through it, it's going to take a few years. Your character can do a lot of moves. It could jump, it could go diagonal, it could go left, right, center. And when you have that range of motion, it becomes much more fun. In my day today, I not only do sales, I do now planning, I do marketing, I synergize among all these things. I look into financing for a company, product market fit, data, you name it. But the arsenal just gets larger as a startup founder. And the larger your arsenal, the more fun it's going to be because, the range of creativity is larger. So as a good note, if you keep on doing it for a long time, it's going to get funner, better, faster, more fun. You're going to make more money. Just keep on doing it.
Yeah, I like that. So my words of closing would be, one thing that is nice about life is the fact that we get to live experiences. So go live as much as possible. Ensure that each and every day that you live are different from the previous ones. Get out of your comfort zone, go meet some people, and just enjoy. It will get hard. What can you do about it? Just enjoy the journey.
I like that. It represented a lot of your character. It represented a lot of your character.
Thank you, Emile.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And let's see the result out of it.
Absolutely. All right. That was it. Bye-bye.